what I'm looking for when hiring is this question is, it really depends on the role. So in my field, I'm looking for a lot of automotive technicians. Okay. And funny enough, all right, funny anecdote, there is no degree, no standardization for anyone touching your car right now. They don't actually need any piece of paper. Like a doctor needs an MD, lawyer, you need to get your law degree. Anyone can touch your brakes and do your rotors, and they don't need nothing, not even a high school diploma. It doesn't exist. It's nothing standardized in the country. Wow. Not in America, at least. All right. Anyways, what's interesting is no one's obviously sending their kids to become automotive technicians, so there's a nationwide shortage. Where am I going with this? What am I looking for when I'm looking for a technician where there's a nationwide shortage and I have to put up 20 postings to get 3 applicants? I'm looking for a heartbeat and somebody looking for a paycheck. It's that. I'm not looking for nothing. So if you are in a super high demand role, you're lucky. The person on the other end who's looking for somebody is, beggars can't be choosers kind of thing. Now, if you're in a competitive role, what am I looking for when I'm hiring? It's going to really it's going to come down to the rational tangibles like your experience, your track record, your credibility, aura, insight, your influence. It's going to be like the rational tangibles I see on your resume. That's what's going to make me give you a call and bring you in. All right. But what's going to make me give you the job? Unfortunately, whether subconscious or not, it's going to be if I like you. It's going to be that if at the end of it, I'm like, man, I kind of like that guy. We really jived well. Or at least they're going to get called in for the second interview.
Which leads you to say they are a good fit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's the way it's corporate parlance that we've been talking about. It's a good fit.
Your synergy.
Right? Well, but let's face it, what you're looking for in a salesperson is not what you're looking for in your leader in finance.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? You're not looking for someone to think outside the box necessarily in finance and land you in regulatory trouble as much as in sales, where outside the box thinking is prized, right? Sorry, Keisha, you were going to say something, right?
No, you just said out of the box, which I said we should retire.
Oh yeah, true. What the hell? No, I guess the problem with this, and look, if you're, I'm assuming a lot of this podcast audience, look, you're going to come from different segments. Either you're going to be new into the career world, or you just you feel like you're stuck and you want to kind of break through that glass ceiling and you want to interview for that role. Ultimately, you need to be intelligent to understand what are they actually looking for. Like, are they looking for a battlefield promotion, right? You survived in the company, everyone around you either got fired or got moved, and like, hey, they have a posting up because that guy quit. Or then that's different from, hey, I want to get this promotion. It's very competitive. I know that they're even telling me it's going to be difficult.
I've interviewed a lot of people. I've hired a lot of people in my years as a manager. And I can tell you the fact that you got called in for the interview, I already know what's on your resume. Right. I already know the skills and experience that you have. That's not what's going to make me hire you. I can usually tell, and I've had a really good track record with the people that I bring in on my team, is if you're going to fit the team that I have. And I can tell within the first 2 questions if I want to hire you or not. And I spend the rest of the time just confirming that decision that I'm making the right choice. But within the first 2 questions, I can tell if I'm going to hire you or if this interview is not going to go anywhere. But I'll still give you the courtesy because I said, come in and I'm going to go through the questions with you. And the first thing I look for is like, did you answer the question that I asked? Because so many times you'll ask a question and I'll say, if I'm looking, depending on the job, and I'll ask behavioral questions and I'll explain it to you. Tell me a time when you did this. And you go and you talk in circles and you use nice buzzwords that you think that I want to hear. And I'm a hard worker and I put in overtime and I'll stay late, but you didn't answer my question. And I'll give you another opportunity to see if you can demonstrate the skill of answering my question. And if you don't do that, then I'm literally, because of, HR reasons, I got to be fair and I'm going to ask you the questions, but you've already blown it in the first 2 questions by not even answering the question that I asked you.
Okay. So one of the things you look for when hiring is someone who's actually listening.
Yes.
And to the point, like answering what you're asking.
Yes.
Not what they think you're asking.
Yes.
Not what they wish you asked.
Yes.
But what you asked.
Yes.
Okay. So that's actually very important.
So my advice, if you're out there looking for a job, is if you get asked a question, answer the question first and then elaborate. Circle back and give the the explanation, but make sure you actually answer the question being asked and then you expand, because sometimes people start with the expanding and explaining and they don't actually take you to the end of answering the question.
They lose the point.
Behavioral based questions are the toughest interview questions because it forces you to, it puts you in a box, so to speak, in terms of narrowing your answer to specifically addressing the question. Tell me a time when you had a really tight deadline and you were successful in implementation. One of the key things for those out there on the recipient side is preparation. You have to be prepared to answer behavioral-based questions, which means knowing your resume inside and out, knowing how to apply your work experience in specific definable activities, so that when you're asked a question like Keisha asks, tell me a time when, you can immediately flip to your mental Rolodex, determine exactly what situation addresses her question, and immediately get into it, rather than talking around the question and blowing the whole interview before you even had a chance to get started.
You know what? Use ChatGPT. Go on ChatGPT and say, give me a time when interview questions. No, for real.
Right.
It's going to give you 20 and you better fit, because
Yes.
I honestly, and I feel like I'm almost double-minded about those kind of questions, because I'm expecting this guy on the spot to think of a time that happened. Again, I just asked you what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago and you don't remember. This guy was going to remember about the one time they had a deadline, but his manager was against it, so practice.
Yeah, but there are, to your point, there are general questions. Behavioral-based questions
Exactly.
that you should prepare for.
If
you're serious about getting the job that you're going in for, that's part of the preparation. Sorry, there is some homework.
That's what I'm saying. So
Being
ChatGPT
successful.
it and be ready.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you. You guys have all been in hiring capacities. Okay, I'm a young person. I want to get this job. I don't really have that much experience. And you asked me, tell me a time when you had a deadline. And in reality, I've never had a deadline.
Tell me
but
about
I
it in
give you an
school.
Oscar-winning story. Do you ever know when they're lying about the story? Does it matter if they say it well?
Of course. Yeah, I do know when they're lying. You can read their body language, and I recognize, because when I'm hiring, depending on if it's a junior role, and I know you're coming straight out of school, I, as an interviewer, will say to you, I recognize you may not have all the experience, but use times when you've been in school.
Right.
If you're coming out of university, you've worked on a team, or even when you played sports.
Yes.
What the behavioral question is telling me is how you think, how you're going to deal with similar circumstances in the future. So I can respect that you may not have the work experience, but you have to have had
character.
Exactly.
This is a character test, not a work experience test.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it exposes people if they can't answer that question. Right? Because a lot of times you're trying to make up a story. And this is why they start adding this fluff and avoiding the actual question.
Right.
Yeah.
And when somebody gives you a second opportunity, you got to take it, because they're giving you another chance to correct yourself. Some people might just move on and they've already made a decision that you're not the person, because basically the stuff you're putting on your resume is not consistent with the answers you're giving. So when people ask you for specifics, you should be able to go back in your memory bank and describe a time that's relatable to the question being asked. And that's just my opinion, because I see it a lot. And you can always tell, she talks about body language. You always see their eyes move to the right. They start making up a story, and then they go way off a topic. And then you try to bring them back in line. You give them a second chance, and they're still off topic. And it's like, okay, you know what?
Yeah, that person failed the interview. So
there you go.
If you don't have the experience, I just want to make this clear. If you don't have the experience, work-related experience, and somebody asks you a behavioral question, sell your character.
Yeah.
Okay. You may not have done it at XYZ Corp as an accountant, but you did it as the team captain in your, Dungeons and Dragons league. Okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Show how you in your daily life have character. What you don't want to sell yourself is at work I'm X, but in real life I'm Y. That's not the reality. If you're punctual, you're going to be punctual in your work life, but also in your, your home life. It's just part of who
I don't know about that. I've talked to my daughter about that. She seems to flip things on and off like a switch. If it's work, boom.
But if it's home,
compartmentalize. She's sleeping 15 hours a day.
Oh, I miss those.
At
days.
least she has her priorities. You raise her right, she's showing up right early and on time for work.
She knows how to flip it on and off.
Exactly.
The That's hilarious.
Yeah. So be authentic. That would be my advice, is to be authentic. And also too, if you get asked a question and you need time to think, don't be afraid to say, you know what, can I think about that one, and can we move on to the next question, and then circle back to the question that you needed a few minutes to gather your a situation in your mind. Don't be afraid to do that. The interviewer will respect you for that, as opposed to you flubbering through and trying to answer the question poorly.